My book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults, is not just the story of my own camp, but is the story of many camps all over the world who are promoting the social and emotional growth of kids through intentional strategies. This bonus episode is a recording of one of my Happy Campers interviews with a camp director from one of the day and resident camps who were in my series that was originally aired on Facebook Live and is also available in video form on my website at sunshine-parenting.com. Enjoy this conversation with a camp director who runs an amazing program. Well, welcome everybody to the Happy Campers interview series. I'm thrilled today to have our first camp on. It's Camp Chippewa for boys. And I have Mike and Mary Endres here with me today. And I'm just so excited to talk to them about their camp. And hopefully you will learn all about how Camp Chippewa for boys just helps really raise self-reliant boys with lots of confidence and mastery. So it's really exciting. Welcome, Mike and Mary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Audrey. Great to be here. Very excited for your book and everything coming up. So good luck with that.
Thank you. So why don't we start? Can you just both tell a little bit about your background working with kids and how you ended up at Camp Chippewa?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting story on my part, and I'll go first. I've been to camp as a camper for a number of years, so I know this camp inside and out. The quick story is it's a camp my grandfather started in 1935. So it's been in the family for a long time until it became a nonprofit in 1999, giving it all away. And my background, though, is I'm a geologist by trade, but a school teacher for 30 years, 8th grade science. So some of the best training I could have as a camp director is to be a school teacher for 30 years. And that translates really well into working with the boys at camp. So very excited about that. And we've been the directors since 2012, and we're at it. And it's a lot of fun, a lot of excitement, and it's great to see a lot of growth in our campers and our boys.
Wow, what a history. I didn't realize that your grandfather started it. That's amazing. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mary. Introduce yourself.
I didn't go to camp as a girl, but I have been to camp as soon as I met Mike. I was introduced to it, and then our 2 boys went from the age of 8 until they were 17 years old. So I have a lot of experience as a camp mom, not being a camp director yet, and now being a camp director for the last 6 or so years. So that's my experience.
You know what? That is actually a really unique and special experience that you got to experience Camp Chippewa as a parent, letting your boys go all the way through, and then you became the directors afterwards. That's pretty unique because most camp directors, if they've been doing it, their kids grow up and it's a different experience of camp when your parents are the directors, obviously. So what a great thing that your boys got to have the real camp experience. As campers without you there.
And even though we were involved in the program at the time, I was down on the rifle range teaching down there, and Mary's on the tennis court a lot. It was still fun to see our boys, but yet we had to give them that space that as their instructors at riflery or tennis, it's one thing, but as their parent, it's still interesting to be with them and let them grow on their own without us always being involved.
Yeah, that's terrific. Okay, well, let's talk about Camp Chippewa for boys. First of all, where are you? We know you've been around since 1935, but tell a little bit more about the camp.
Yeah, imagine the 1930s. It's the Great Depression, as we all know, and the Dust Bowl. And my grandfather was a physical education teacher in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And there was a man looking for a waterfront director in the 1920s up on the lake that we're on. We're on Cass Lake, which is northern Minnesota. The nearest city is Bemidji, about 15, 20 miles away, and about a 4-hour ride from Minneapolis. So he started working on the southern shore of the lake, and this camp is no longer in existence. But for some reason, he just felt that a summertime opportunity at a camp, and during this time, there weren't a lot of summer opportunities except for maybe working on the farm or finding a job. So he started working at this camp in the 20s and started Camp Chippewa in 1935, bought the land, borrowed money from his grandmother, and for it to continue, one, being a physical education teacher, two, bringing his family up from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and three, just doing this in the middle of the Depression. I still can't believe how he did it, and to have it viable and growing today is just wonderful. So our boys come from all over the United States, Mexico, Europe, and our third, fourth, and fifth graders. Most of our boys come for 4-week sessions, and some will venture for 8 weeks and stay with us the whole summer.
So you said it was, again, the ages of the boys who come. Tell us again.
They 8 years, our youngest boys, and 17 and even 18 years old. So about that group.
Yeah, we generally accept boys not based so much on their age, but on their grade in school. So when they're placed in cabins, it's what grade they're going into after the summer.
Right.
So 3rd grade to 12th grade.
Okay, amazing. Talk about, I think it's quite, I mean, I know there are still some, but it's quite unique to have an all boys camp. Talk about why you're finding that model so great for the boys that you serve at Camp Chippewa.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially today, that the boys can be together. And I remember at one open house, especially, this one boy said, "Are there girls at this camp?" And I said, "Well, there's some women on our staff and in the kitchen, whatever." But he said, "There's no girls at the camp." I said, "No, there's no girls." You could just see his shoulders go, oh, because he went to a co-ed camp the year before and just didn't find it comfortable. So I think there's a level of interaction that the boys get, the relationships they build with boys just being together is something that they can't get. I mean, they're with girls at school or at sports or in theater or other places. So just to have them together without, if you will, a distraction, that distraction really provides a lot of growth for the boys. And
I would say too, it's equally important for girls. And when there's a number of all girls camps up in northern Minnesota by us too. And I think it's important for the boys and the girls to be separated, and they just don't have those pressures of or have to all the social norms of relationships and things like that. They can just really be themselves.
Yeah, it seems like, just based on what I've talked to you about before, it's a really great adventurous growth experience for the boys. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of those really fun canoe camping trips and things that you do with your boys, and some of the character traits that they build doing all that great adventurous stuff?
Right. It's exciting. Our youngest boys, 8, some of them even 7, they'll go on an overnight canoe trip, and our location lends itself to some very exceptional camping. The lake we're on, northern Minnesota, the Mississippi runs through our lake, so there's great canoeing possibilities there. So our little guys, they'll go out to an island in the middle of the lake, and you'd think they're first-time explorers, like Henry Schoolcraft, who's the one of the adventurers discovered the headwaters of the Mississippi River. You would think that these guys are Henry Schoolcraft coming up the Mississippi River. And then that leads all the way to age-appropriate canoe trips. Our middle schoolers will go out 3 to 4 days. Our high school age boys, 9th grade, will go into Canada for a week. And then our oldest boys that are juniors and seniors, they may be in Canada for anywhere up to 19, 21, 26 days in Canada. So they're really reaching these remote wilderness areas that provide challenges, growth, a brotherhood that you can only get when you're with a group for 3 weeks at a time. And not every day is fun. Paddling in the wind isn't easy. Dealing with bugs isn't easy. But when they come back, they feel so proud of their accomplishments. And it's fun to see that growth when they come back. So our canoeing is what transcends all age groups, from our younger boys all the way to our older boys. But it's balanced nicely with our in-camp program. We offer a wide variety of activities. The boys can kind of regulate what they choose to take, but it's the canoeing that all our boys will do from their first year to their last year as a camper.
Same thing like with those trips, Audrey. But a lot of people talk about, why camp is so good for developing self-confidence or things like that. A lot of big keywords now are, developing that grit or that resiliency or things like that. one of the pillars of the 3 pillars of Camp Chippewa adventure tradition is character. And we really feel that the canoe trips really build character in the boys, from personal responsibility of having to care for their belongings and care for others, to preparing for the trip, for packing, and then just being out in the wilderness. I mean, you don't have the comfort of even your cabin with your pillow and a blanket and a sheet. You know, you've got a sleeping bag and a sleeping pad, and you're out in the elements. And, you know, it could rain all 7 days, but trip leaders are key too, but to have those experiences and then get back and be welcomed home into the folds of the camp community again, back at camp, it just makes, they walk taller, they look stronger, and it does so much for developing that inner strength, that reserve for when they're back in school and a big test they have to study for, or they're having trouble, maybe a relationship with a team member, or even when they go to college and not really getting the roommate that they thought they would. So it's just really great life skills and growth producing experiences.
Gosh, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I know you're both big fans of Michael Thompson.
Yes.
And his book, Homesick and Happy. And I just keep thinking, he talks so much about how important it is for boys to have time with other boys and with men, bonding and doing these kinds of things. And, you know, it's just something that as a parent, you want to be able to do that with your kid, but going camping with your family is very different. First of all, I don't really want to canoe in the rain for 7 days.
Right.
So I want my kids to do that. So I think that it's just an opportunity like no other. And I think it's quite unique what you're doing, because I think a lot of camps have like canoeing as an activity or maybe backpacking or some different things, but it's really quite unique that you have this canoe trip as kind of a main part of your program.
And it's kind of a rite of passage. I think today's culture, there's not a lot of chances for boys or girls to have that step into adulthood. And these older boys, especially when they come back from these 3-week trips, they come back on that path to manhood. You can see them physically, emotionally, even spiritually stronger. And then when they do go off to college, they can handle it. It's much easier. So as they come back, it's almost like a ticker tape parade, as if the Apollo astronauts came back from the moon. They just feel they swell with pride, and deservedly so, because they can overcome or endure hardships. And that translates into them being able to deal with freshman year of college and deal away with the anxiety of tests and new relationships there. So it's a great rite of passage, we think.
What age do you find most kids tend to start at Camp Chippewa? Is there sort of an age that's the typical age people start? It sounds like they come back usually for many years and go through all these steps and progression of your program. Do you have, I mean, I'm sure what's your youngest? It's like 3rd grade?
Third grade. Right.
Yeah. And that's a 2-week program. Is that what you said?
It also can be a 4-week program. Depends on the child. Yeah, but the 2-week program is only open to boys going into 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. Yeah.
So if the family wanted to try out just a shorter thing, they could do that. But do you recommend for your full program to just go for it and do the 4 weeks?
Well, the neat thing about our 2-week program is that it's at the beginning of each 4-week session. Mm-hmm. So I always tell our 2-week camp parents that, you know, if he's having a great time and you don't have a family vacation scheduled right afterwards, he can stay. He can extend it as the additional 12 days after those 2 weeks to finish out the session and be involved in some of the end of session big things that are happening. But I would say that actually, you know, it's kind of all over the board. We had a lot of 8-year-olds last summer that came for 2 weeks, and they're all signed up for 4 weeks this year as 9-year-olds.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We also get 5th graders, you know, for their first time, or even 7th graders for their first time. So it's kind of all over the board. It's hard to take a boy that's, you know, already 17 because of our tripping program. There's so much progression and build up there, but I would say that the average age is probably 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that is, so, and do you have a lot of, you said you have people from all over. How many of the kids are like, their parents went? Like, if you come as a new family, like a new family interested, what's it like for a brand new family joining the Camp Chippewa family?
It's a lot. The word of mouth, as you know, it gets spread as good as gold. The new family, it's really fun because our website, I think, spells out so much of what it's like to go to camp, our philosophy, our values, what we believe in, our mission statement, and even the videos, they get a really good feel. So then we have a conversation. Some, they just enroll right away. They go, oh, we just loved your website. We love what you stand for. This is the experience we want our son to have. But it's that conversation, as you know, that relationship building that occurs via emails and phone calls. And I think it's fun because most of the kids are ready to go. They're just like, yeah, mom, dad, sign me up. But it's more, who else can we talk to? So if it's in a city, we have a lot of our camp families from, say, Kansas City, Chicago, or Houston, then we make those connections with camp families there. And I think sometimes that works really well to hear the message from other people besides just the directors who, we all know we want these families to sign up. So there's just so much information today with social media, way to reach parents. We have suggested readings, books that will help parents kind of get over their hurdle about sending their son far away. And so it's a process. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah. But we do have, more and more as we all get older, obviously, there's more and more what we call legacy campers. So new campers who are sons of their dads or even grandsons of previous campers, which is really kind of fun. And parents, I think, no matter what age, but particularly if their son is older, say he's going into 7th, 8th, 9th grade, they're really concerned about sending him that he's not going to be a part of the group. He's coming in new and stuff. And that, I think it's because we're small. It doesn't really happen. It doesn't seem to be an issue, even if he comes into a group of boys that have been together for, 2 years or 4 years or something like that. There's generally 1 or 2 cabins per each age group, and the kids just get assimilated right away. Plus, that's really the only time they're kind of just with themselves with that age group is when they go on their canoe trip. The rest of the time at camp, everybody's all mixed together in the dining hall, at the tables. Younger campers, older campers, counselors are all eating together during the activities. They're all together, special activity, large group activities. They're all mixed up with each other. And it's so fun to see the little kids looking up to the big guys, and kind of that brotherhood, big brother, little brother kind of thing is really neat.
It must be nice for kids who are like only children and they don't have a brother.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's probably really fun. So how many kids are at camp at a time?
Well, when they first get there, our capacity is 75.
Okay.
And then, like with the big trips, within 4 days, 8 guys will be gone on their 3-week trip or whatever. And it kind of progresses like that. The longer the trip, the longest one leaves first, and so on and so forth. And there may be times during camp where we'll only have 2 or 3 cabins. We might have 12 boys, and
feels like a ghost town, but everybo's out.
14
out on the trail.
Staff or something crazy. And we kind of count as the tables in the dining hall as we go down from 20 to 18 to 16. All of a sudden we have 3 tables in the dining hall, and the kitchen is 3 tables in the dining hall. But 75 overall.
Yeah, what a nice family kind of community feel that must be to have just kind of a small, intimate group. I'm sure everybody knows each other within a few days. Yeah. What a terrific thing. And then I'm sure your staff know all the boys as well.
Yeah, they do. It's a great number to have as far as relationship building, team building, large group activities. They're all mixed together. And it's really fun to watch that happen.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know just based on your background, you're really intentional about making sure that you're having a positive impact on these boys' development and their character development. We've talked a little bit about it, but what are the traits that you're most focused on building up in these boys while they're with you? And what are some things that maybe practices that you do that parents can learn from, that they might be able to maybe just try something at home that you do at camp? What are some of the practices that you do and the skills that you're really focusing on at Camp Chippewa?
Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say was, I mean, we already talked about it with the canoe trips, but that kind of that personal responsibility and the character growth and stuff. But as far as something that kind of transcends back to home is during our mealtime, it's served family style, and well, it goes hand in hand with that is that, maybe you have a rule at home, no technology at the table, no texting at the table. I mean, it's a technology-free camp. But instead of kids having their heads down all the time and looking at their laps or looking at their hands, they're engaged in conversation around the table. There's something always going on. We have the counselors are so great in engaging the kids, just asking them what they did that day, knowing it's like, oh, hey, I saw you on the climbing wall today, or you got a great score in archery today. So they know intimately what's been going on in the boy's life all during the day, which is different than at home, right? Because the kids are at school and you're at work and you're just busy and you're just trying to get stuff together, and there's sports encroaching on that. So they really know the boys and they have those conversations and really get into that. And so what I notice with the kids is that, and what the parents notice when they get home is that, they're standing up taller, they're looking at you, they can maintain eye contact, they can actually have a conversation, and it's really wonderful.
I think really specifically what I hit on in staff orientation is we talk about when you have a conversation, whether it's adult to adult or camper to camper, whatever, what's their eye color? Look at them in their eye. So specifically that, do you have a conversation through social media, or do you have a conversation between two people where you see their iris and actually can tell, are they brown-eyed, are they blue-eyed, or whatever. And that's very intentional, and that's something we hope they continue to take back home, is to sit at the table and not put your head down in text and your lap or whatever, but to actually have these conversations where you do see the eye color. So it's a very specific thing. That then also goes to the team building that goes on, whether it's in a cabin or whether it's on these canoe trips, and it really happens beautifully on these trips. And they have a chance to fall apart. I mean, we talked about our son was on a trip 16 days of rain, and it's like, pick your attitude. And you can either have your attitude as, this is the worst experience in my life, which it may feel like at the time, but they finally woke up one morning and said, wet socks, this is refreshing. Now, nobody likes to put wet socks on, but it's how you pick that attitude and how that transcends to that group. So instead of completely falling apart, it actually made the mortar that held this thing together. So taking a situation where there's challenge and there's discomfort, not that you're going to magically wave a wand and make things disappear, but how do you persevere? How do you get through that? So we're very intentional, even back in camp. If a boy's really close to passing a rank in archery and they just need a few more points to go from 20 meters to 30 meters and they miss it by 1 or 2, they're crushed. Well, how do you handle that? Well, you connect and you redirect. You work with that boy and just say, we'll get it. Keep practicing. Keep at it. So it's the sense that we work very hard. There's going to be a lot of times where you don't always win. You don't get that next target. You don't get that next score. You don't win the sailing race. How do you deal with that? So we're very intentional about taking a situation that's uncomfortable and working at it, providing the scaffolding and the training to have the boys persevere and understand that, stick with it, and maybe you'll get your goals.
Oh, that's amazing. Those are great insights. And of course, it reminded me of how I connected with you, which was through Tina Payne Bryson, who, if listeners don't know, she's the co-author of The Whole Brain Child, No Drama Discipline, and The Yes Brain. And she actually goes out to your camp every year and trains your staff, which is such a terrific, that's a training that all parents really need.
Correct.
But I am jealous of you that you get to have her at your camp, because what a fantastic training. And wow, the intention that you've put into training your staff to really understand what these boys need. And that I heard it in your wording, what did you just say about the connection before redirection, connect and redirect. Just that connection piece. And I loved listening to you talk about the face-to-face thing. Right. All kids need that help, but boys, it seems especially, seem to be struggling with, just really being addicted to their games, and they're kind of connecting with each other more, playing a game together or looking down together. And so, gosh, that experience that can be uncomfortable, but just that practice of sitting around the table, talking and activities and everything, just being unplugged, that alone must be so beneficial for these boys.
It is. It's one of my highlights of the summer is we're in the dining hall watching the interaction going on. Is you see a table, there's usually 6 boys, 2 counselors, and all the heads are leaned in.
They're all like this.
And they're all leaning in. And then in a nanosecond, they're all heads back and everybody's laughing and they're just having a great time. And that's when I know our men are developing those relationships, making connections with the boys. And so when they do need to have a conversation with a boy about behavior that's not appropriate, then they can lean in and have those courageous conversations, and the camper will listen. So Another intentional thing is basically say, try to look for 4 things that you can work with a camper that are positive, and that one corrective behavior thing. And there's ways to do that. They'll listen to you instead of tune you out like you're their math teacher that has barked at them 10 times already. So very, very positive.
That's that magic relationship ratio, that you need a certain number of positive interactions before you can do a correction. Most kids who are struggling with behavioral things, they're only accustomed to getting negative feedback. And so be in a place where the counselors are finding good things, that alone, oh my gosh, I bet these boys are just blooming, these kids who are feeling kind of frustrated after maybe feeling not very much positive interaction at school. They probably come to camp and just feel like a new person.
Well, and getting back to Tina as well, she'll come back at the end of the summer and stop in on maybe some of her travels, and then she'll connect with our staff. And she doesn't do any formal training or sessions, but she'll just be around camp, and the men will come up and talk with her about specific instances. And she's a wonderful advocate for continuing what she's talked about in her books with Dan Siegel, making these positive growth changes that happen neurologically.
Yeah. Well, I think your camp is a great example. I think a lot of times parents don't realize what's happening at some of the camps and how much training and intention is going into everything you do. You're not just throwing kids in canoes or whatever. You're like leveling them. You're getting them ready for these different things. You're focusing on those relationships. There's so much going on there beyond what people could see in a photo from your camp. So it's really, really neat to hear about that. What do you hear from your longtime campers? What's the feedback you get about how their time at Camp Chippewa has impacted their lives? Real quickly, it just hit me when you said that. When we go around the country to our open houses and our alumni gatherings, they will look back, and many camps have this, but they say, those were the best summers of my life. And I know that's pretty standard in the camping industry, but then we hear things like, camp made me the man I am today. We get, the letters unsolicited from our parents that just can't believe the transition of their son prior to camp, post camp. And it's wonderful. It fills your sails to know that the hard work we all put in is reaching our kids and helping growth and development. So those kinds of things.
Yeah. If can I just share something that somebody has written?
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this was a boy that came for 2 weeks. He was going into 5th grade, so probably 10. Dear Mike and Mary, I just wanted to reach out and tell you what a wonderful time Julian had at camp. He came home with confidence and a full heart. When I was putting him to bed last night, he said, I miss camp. For Julian, the boy who doesn't like to leave home, this is pure truth. I cannot say enough great things about the camp. It makes me cry when I think of how happy it made Julian, the confidence he left with, as well as a newfound respect and love for nature. He is ready to do a full month next summer, and now he just has to count down a whole lot of days.
Oh, that got me a little teary over here.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I especially like those kind of stories. I always say kids who are great, everywhere, they're great everywhere, and they do fine at camp. But to me, the kids for whom the experience is the most life-changing are those ones that they need that boost. You know, maybe they don't have a lot of confidence just based on whatever they participate in or what's going on at home. And it sounds like for Julian, it was just that kind of experience where he was transformed. He became his better self or his best self.
Right.
We were at an open house in the Bay Area last year now, I should say, and a family came. It was going to be the boy just finished his first year, and we didn't know. After 2 weeks, he was pretty quiet and pretty reserved, and we were like, we don't even know if he's going to come back. Well, we get to the open house, and the parents were just gushing about what a great time their son had. And I looked at Mary and I go, really? Yeah. He barely said boo, but you never know how you reach a kid. And sometimes the ones that are easy to be with are the fun kids, and they're fun everywhere. But you have to continue to put the time into the kids that may sometimes not be so easy to reach. And then when you hear these stories unsolicited from parents that they're so excited to come back for this summer, it's like, wow, then who was that guy's counselor? Oh, great. You can see how these pieces come together to make that boy's summer a success.
Well, I really hope someone who's listening or watching just gets that little inkling like, wow, maybe my kid who is kind of not super confident or super happy seeming could really benefit from this adventure of being with all these boys and doing this great program with you and your staff at Camp Chippewa, because it really could be transformational for some of these kids. So it's really awesome to hear that.
You say that too, Audrey, is that we try to distill, what is Camp Chippewa? What do we want? I mean, we have a mission statement, but I think that we really do provide boys with those opportunities to have transformational experiences, whether it's on the canoe trip or it's in camp. I mean, something came to my mind just a moment ago about what parents say. This one mom, when she picked her son up at the end of the session, she said, you know what I really like about Camp Chippewa? It's that it shows Isaac that there's other stuff that he's good at. He maybe doesn't do the triad, and now it's more things at high school, but it's usually the football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, that kind of stuff. If a kid just isn't really athletically inclined, he can come to camp and find out, hey, he's great at fencing. He loves to sail, riflery, tennis. I mean, all sorts of different things that he can do and that he's good at and he can compete at, and see progression and mastery. It really builds them that way too, even if they're just not out on a real long trip, that they find that in the in-camp program too.
And we're a big believer in you can't give, your son or daughter or a camper self-confidence. It has to grow from within. And how that happens, we feel, is when they find an activity, whether it's sailing, archery, climbing, riflery, whatever, is as they go through the ranks, there's always another step to kind of show your progression. And as they progress and get that mastery, then the self-confidence grows in them, and then you can see the fire in the belly take hold, and it's a delight. So some of those guys that are not going to be the captain of any team, football or basketball, then they find their lifelong sport that they may be involved in. It could be tennis or fencing. I know in Minnesota, one of the biggest high school sports that's growing is now trap shooting. And it's the one sport that boys and girls compete on equal footing is trap shooting. And I know in the Olympics, we do very well in our shooting sports. So it's neat to see the boys take to our rifle range and our trap range and understand it is a sport. It's a great sport. And it's fun to see the boys develop that self-confidence because they get better, because they want what they've done.
What they want to do and what they've done.
All right. Awesome. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. And of course, now I wish I could go or still have a boy to send or something. Where can people find you if they're interested in Camp Chippewa? What's the best place to reach you and set up a call to talk with you or meet you in person? Where can they find you?
Well, our website has got a ton of information and all of our contact, but it's www.campchippewa.com. And there's information for parents, for campers, frequently asked questions, all about our program, and our contact information is on there, our email, our phone number. So it's super simple.
Okay, great. And then if people ever get lost or don't know where to go, they can always go to my website, which is sunshine-parenting.com. And I will have a page set up just for your camp, and we'll put your video and all your contact information as well as a copy of this interview so that people can also find you there. This has been so great talking to you. I'm glad we got to know each other. I'm glad Tina introduced us, because I think your program is just terrific and doing great things for boys. And I hope we get some more families who listen to this and get inspired to look into Camp Chippewa for their sons.
I do too. Audrey, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. It's been really special.
Good. And good luck again with the book. Yes. This has been great.
Thanks so much. So thanks so much for being on, and thanks for listening to those of you who are listening. Like I said at the beginning, this is an interview series this is our first one, but there's going to be many more coming up over the next couple months, and you can find out all about the different camps I'm talking to, day camps, resident camps, camps all the way in Minnesota, in Texas, East Coast, West Coast, day camps, everything. So if you're interested in learning more about summer camp, and especially if it's a concept that's completely new to you and you have no idea why anyone would ever send their child to camp, I'm hoping that this series is going to help people understand that kids really have transformational changes at camps like Camp Chippewa, and it's just an amazing gift to give your child that opportunity to grow in the way that they can at summer camp. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and we will, I'm sure, be in touch with Mike and Mary again. Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll get together again soon to talk more about camp.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Audrey.
Okay, bye. Signing off. Thank you so much for joining me for this Happy Campers interview bonus podcast episode. If you're interested in learning more about how you can bring home some of the magic of summer camp, I'd love for you to pick up a copy of my book, Happy Campers, 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. It's available for pre-order now and comes out on May 7th. And you can find more information about it on my website by going to happycampersbook.com. To thank you for pre-ordering the book, I have a couple of fun freebies. The first of which is the first chapter, Camp Secret Number 1, Connection Comes First. I'll also send you an invitation to join my private Facebook group that's called the Happy Campers Book Club, where we'll be sharing resources, videos, and conversation about raising kids who become thriving adults. To access these freebies, simply pre-order your copy of the book and then fill out the form at happycampersbook.com. Together, we can spread the happiness of summer camp to the whole world.